Hello, Facebook family and friends. I am Anita Lavelle. I'm the spiritual leader of Mount Olive Baptist Church right here on Greenside Avenue in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. Welcome to MOBC is Talking About It. MOBC, of course, stands for Mount Olive Baptist Church. Welcome to this forum. This is episode number 4. We are delighted to be before you at this time, and for those of you that are new to this forum, this is something that we started doing 3 or 4 months ago, and we actually ask people in the community or in Washington County who have some wisdom to drop on us or have some level of expertise to kind of highlight some things that we know are challenges in society today, because we believe the church ought to be the ones talking about these kinds of issues. So welcome. Today we have with us Lisa Freud. Lisa is the vice president of the Washington chapter of NAMI. Okay. NAMI, the acronym is NAMI, and what it means is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And so we know that this is a concern that's often, it seems to go in peaks and valleys as to whether or not the concern is talked about. It's not talked about on a regular basis. And so we want to certainly have a conversation with her about the resources that are available, about how we as a church and really as a society at large can help NAMI and can be impactful in helping those who carry a diagnosis of mental illness. We believe in everybody being whole, amen? Not just physically well, but emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically well also. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you for being with us today. Those of you who've been with us before, you know we ask a series of questions of our guests, and so we're going to get right into it. Is that all right, Lisa?
That's all right.
All right. Lisa, I am unfamiliar with NAMI beyond a little bit that you and I have talked about in the past. So can you tell us a little bit about the organization? How did it start?
Sure.
What its mission is?
So NAMI is a grassroots organization. It was started by family members of individuals that had health problems. Back then, they didn't specify that it was mental health issues. As time has gone on, they've become more specific about labels. However, labels can often hurt people more than they can help. NAMI, this organization of family members got together and said, we need to start a support for those of us who have these family members and for the family members themselves. So that's how NAMI started. It started as a little chapter. It grew and expanded through the states, and now it is national and international. Actually, there's chapters in other countries. I think NAMI is important because they emphasize that we are people. We are not our illness, we are people. And just like you and everybody else who may come to this church, people need connection. And that connection is important in our lives, because without that connection, we become lonely and hopeless. And we all know what can happen when people lose hope.
So you're the vice president of the Washington County branch.
Yeah, so Keystone, PA, they changed their name from PA to Keystone, PA. Mm-hmm. Our local chapter is in Washington County, and we meet in the Social Security building. I know that's not the name of the Social Security building, but that's what I call it because people know that that's where the Social Security building is. Mm-hmm. If you tell them the name of the building, they will have no idea where to go.
Okay.
So I always say in the Social Security building, we meet once a month as a family support group. And anybody is welcome to come to this group and talk and gain support. And there are people there who are struggling, but there's people there that can help. So the first step is acknowledging that you have a problem, and then seek help. One of the ways you can do that is by going to a support group meeting where people know what you are going through. So I encourage anybody who may be struggling to come to our meeting in Washington. In fact, we have our next meeting this Thursday. It is our Christmas meeting. So we will be bringing a little bit of food, and we'll be doing share and care. And we'll also be talking about the topics for the next year and who we want to come and talk to us. We bring people in, the county brings people in to talk about various topics like pet therapy, or how do you help somebody who's suicidal. They'll bring an individual in who can talk to you about the things that you should do, the steps you should take in order to help those people.
So is this Thursday, I'm just trying to
This-
clarify,
yeah,
is this more of
this-
a planning meeting, or is this
No.
actually a meeting
It's
for?
actually a meeting that anybody can come to.
Okay.
It's starts at 6:30 to 8:30. It's a 2-hour meeting, and basically we start out by people we'll get food, and then we'll sit down, and then we'll talk while we eat. It's kind of what I remember when I was a girl growing up in East End Canonsburg at the Greek church, because that's where the Greek church used to be, on, over on that side of town before it moved to McMurray. And we used to eat after church, and everybody would socialize. And that's what it makes me feel like. It makes me remember what it was like to have that interconnectedness when I was a child.
All right. So that's this Thursday.
This
At
Thursday.
at the Social Security Building. We'll call it that, since that's what you
Yeah.
called it, at 6:30 to 8:30, and
Yes.
it's open to anyone in the community that
Anybody
wants
who
to
would like to come.
So if you have questions, and this is for our audience, if you have any questions about NAMI, that even after we have this conversation,
Correct.
you could come to that and get your questions
Yes.
answered. Wonderful,
Most definitely.
wonderful.
And usually we do have an individual from the county behavioral health that will be there. So it also is important, because say you're in need of a service and can't seem to find the information, they're there, and they're there to help.
Great. Lisa, tell me a little bit about, how did you become interested in serving in NAMI? How did
Okay.
you become interested?
So my journey started a while back. I am from Canonsburg. I grew up here, went to Cannon-McMillan High School, and then graduated, went to college at IUP Punxsutawney, got my associates in criminology there, and then went to main campus. This is when I started to have interesting things starting to happen in my life. I'll just put it that way. I went down for a summer in Ocean City, Maryland, and met people that were not good people. Because of that, I got myself into a relationship with somebody that wasn't a healthy spiritual relationship. I didn't know, I was young, I was naive. But one thing that was important is, genetically speaking, a lot of mental illness can run in families. In my individual family, I did not have a history on either side of my family of mental illness. However, I didn't know all of my family. I came to learn years later that I do have some individuals that also have mental illness. And so when I went through this relationship that was physically, mentally, sexually abusive, it triggered me, and my bipolar disorder came out. So at the time, I was 21 years old, which is the age that most individuals that are females will present, is in their 20s, early 20s. Males tend to present at an earlier age, usually in high school. We don't know why this is, but it's the stressors, I guess, that people go through. When that happened, I was hospitalized. After I got out of the hospital, they had put me on medicine that I didn't agree with. This is also something that people or individuals that have mental health struggle with. We get put on medicine and we don't like the way it feels. It feels wrong to us. And then we get better and we think, we don't need this medicine. Why would we need this medicine? I'm perfectly fine, there's no problems, but we don't, our mind tricks us into thinking that it's not from the medicine that's helping us, that we weren't sick to begin with. So a lot of times you go through cycles of going on and off medications. So that's what started to happen with me when I was 21. That's when I realized I needed help, and I didn't know what to do. So because I'm a big go-getter, I decided after some time to jump into becoming a nurse because I wanted to find out what was wrong with me. People kept telling me something was wrong, and I kept saying, no, nothing's wrong with me, you know? So I wanted to learn. When I was in nursing school, my teacher who taught mental health, the mental health module, told me about NAMI. So that's how I learned about NAMI. It was very important. When I got involved with NAMI, it saved my life. The organization saved my life. It gave me a place to go where I felt safe, where I could express all these crazy things that were going on with me, because sometimes I got the bonus. So I don't just have the bipolar disorder, I have bipolar disorder with psychotic features. So when I'm not on meds to stabilize me in the middle, I can get suicidal or I can get psychotic, manic, they call it mania. So when these things happen, I didn't know what to do. And they would put me on medicine, but it didn't solve the problem. Medication is only one part of what it takes to keep your mental health stable. Health, like physical health, is another major component. If you're, say, a diabetic and you should be taking care of your diabetes, if you don't, it will affect the way that your mental health reacts. So it's like a domino effect, you know? There's a lot of things that you have to do, and like persons that struggle with, say, a drug addiction or alcoholism, persons with mental health, we always have to pick the day and say, today I am gonna stay in recovery. Today I am gonna choose the things that will keep me healthy. Because I can choose to go to the pool and swim, or I could choose to go to the bar and drink. Which one would be better for somebody who has a mental illness? Probably the exercise. I'm not saying you shouldn't socialize, but sometimes when you go to certain places, they can cause you to get involved in things that will make you sick. I know I talk a lot, I'm sorry.
No, this is extraordinary. You telling your story is, in my mind, I think it provides a great deal of hope, because to listen to you talk about what was and to see what I see in front of me right now is pretty extraordinary. So you said you're a nurse. You're working as a nurse currently, right?
Yes, I'm an RN.
Okay.
I currently am working at a treatment detox center for alcoholics and drug addiction. So that's where I currently work. I'm there part-time.
Wow.
Because the other thing that's important with persons who have mental health problems is you have to realize stress is a factor. Good stress and bad stress. It is the same. It doesn't matter, say I'm getting married, that's still stress. Say, you know, somebody passes away, that's stress. There's many stresses, but they all affect you equally as in the same way.
Got you. Wow.
Yeah, so.
This is so informative. I mean, really, just you telling your story, I think is, again, I think it's extraordinary, and I think if there's anybody listening that perhaps is dealing with a mental health diagnosis and is kind of struggling in a very difficult way, in the way you described earlier in your life, and to see that then you went to nursing school and the things that you made wise choices, and now here you are, an accomplished RN in an alcohol and drug detox center. I think that it shows people that this can work for your benefit, the medication and the therapy and being connected to support groups. I just think your story is extraordinary. Even though we've talked before, I didn't know it, and I would never know it by looking at you.
So it's one of those things where sometimes people can have a lot of stigma, be very judgmental. So you don't want to start being friends with somebody by saying, "Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm bipolar," and that's only one part of my life. I'm a master swimmer for Allegheny Mountain Y Master Swim Team. That's one part of my life. I just started a business, Freud Wellness, that's going to raise money to do adult mental health programming in Washington County. That's another part of me. The nursing's a part of me, my life. I have a lot of people in my life that, see, one thing that I've learned just in the past couple years when I moved to Little Washington, PA, is that when you hide stuff about yourself from other people, you can't be mad at them for not knowing and understanding what's going on in your life. So if I don't tell you that this is happening, and I assume that you should just know because, you're my friend, my mother, my sister, it's me assuming something that it's too difficult. Because if I was the person and you and I are talking, if you don't tell me, look, I'm having this issue, how am I supposed to know? I'm not a mind reader. I don't have this magical ball above my head that tells me what's going on with you. I know that through the years I've learned to watch people and I understand mannerisms, so I can tell you're struggling. But unless you tell me what you're struggling with, I have no way to help or guide you to where you need to be. So
I think that speaks volumes for society in general, and I'm going to speak specifically for the church, since that's part of what I do. That you need that connectedness you talked about previously, and the church certainly provides that opportunity to fellowship, but there's also an opportunity for us to try to understand each other in a way that perhaps we didn't before, which I feel like that's what you're speaking about, is to provide a comfortable enough environment in all of society where people can then feel like they can share, and in such a way that we're not quickly saying, there's something wrong with this, that, and the third without really knowing someone's story, but also providing a safe space where people can tell their story. And I'm learning that from you as we're sitting here talking. You're actually teaching me a tremendous amount of how we can be and should be as a society and specifically as a church.
I really have to go back to being brought up in the Greek Orthodox Church as a child. They instill in you how important it is to love each other in spite of anything that's going on with you. They give you that love, that compassion, that family.
Yes. And in my mind, that's what Jesus was and is all about. That's the love of Christ, and so that is the church. Without question, that's the church universal. And that's our mission. I just think, perhaps we could do it a little bit better. Is what's going through my mind as you're talking.
Well, I think what it is you grow. So the more you learn, the more you grow, and the more people you speak to, the more information you have, the more you realize you're not alone. You're not the only person that feels that way. You're not the only person that gets up in the morning, looks in the mirror, and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to have a bad hair day." Everybody feels that way. Or maybe I should just go shave it all off because that would be easier than having to play around with my hair this morning. Lots of people think that way, Sure. But unless you've talked to somebody, how would you know?
Yes.
And I fear that our iPhones have way gotten into causing more issues.
Yes.
Facebook, I'm on it a lot, I must say, but it does not replace the feeling you get from a one-on-one conversation with a friend.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. I feel like we've become addicted to phones.
Yeah.
We can't function without them. Everywhere you go, nobody's looking up to have that face-to-face conversation.
Right.
Everybody's looking down, and so nobody really talks anymore, and that just isolates us all the more.
Even more.
And that's for everybody. I think we all feel somewhat isolated to some degree because technology has taken us to that place, and we've allowed that to happen. Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, wow. That was a wealth of information. Let me ask you this, Lisa. It's often stated that people who live with a diagnosis of mental illness, am I saying that right?
Yes.
Live with a diagnosis of mental illness, have a worsening of their symptoms around the holidays. And given that Christmas is within the next week,
Yes.
is that true, first of all? And can you help us understand if we have family members, friends, people in our church and that, how can we be more sensitive to that, and what are some red flags?
So if you think about it, just your average person who has no challenges mentally has problems during the holidays. You get more stressed out. You're rushing around, making sure you have the perfect gift for each person on your list. You don't want to leave anybody out. You know, all those things are happening. Plus, you get bombarded with memories of people that you loved who have passed away, people that are living in the other side of the country, because now we are lucky enough to live in the United States. And I say lucky because it's not like this everywhere. You could have a child that's living on the other side of the United States, and you can Zoom with them and talk with them on the phone. Other countries, it's not like that. So the holidays, the hustle and the bustle, you know what I mean? Those of us who have mental health challenges, lots of crowds and people and music can trigger us. So if I'm stable and all of a sudden I have all this stuff happening around me that's making my anxiety go up and up and up and up and up, either I have to pull myself away from that, or I have to figure out ways that I can make that anxiety go down so that I don't become ill. I look to swimming. Swimming has always been my thing. I was a swimmer in high school. I swim now, and it's like therapy for me. When I get in the water, I just get in there and I can swim like 100 to 120 lengths of the pool in about an hour and a half. And it takes all of that, when you start to think and you can't slow down your thoughts, it will slow that down so that I can have a grasp on things. Other people, they run into the same thing. Maybe a person has PTSD, and their thoughts are, oh my gosh, it's so crowded, I want to go to church, there's so many people there, but what if? What if this happens? What if? And then the media puts it right up in our faces and says, hey, this is what could happen if you go to the parade. So then these people that already have these anxieties and issues see all of this, and it just amplifies it. So I don't think it's unique to people with mental problems or mental challenges. I think we all, around the holidays, tend to get more anxious, more unhealthy. Be it physically, because we're eating so many calories in one day, but also because the stress level of the holidays can consume you.
Is there anything that you would recommend
For the holidays?
for the holidays that we can help those that have the diagnosis, or?
Sure. So the first thing is knowing and identifying those people around you that may struggle during the holidays. So for example, if you know somebody who may have just had somebody pass away, and let me tell you, the last year and a half, there's not anybody who hasn't been touched by COVID. Everybody knows somebody, has somebody close, or is in the field and has seen it, been there when people have passed. So this holiday is not just a holiday to celebrate, it's also a holiday to remember. So if you know you have these people that have struggled, reach out to them. Send them a little card thinking of you. Leave a little piece of candy on their desk at work and say, hi, just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you. You have no idea what something that little will do for somebody who's on the brink of, I just can't take it anymore, I'm done. It just takes one little magical thing from somebody who that person might think that it doesn't mean anything. But to the person that you're doing it for, it means everything.
So that would require us to be a little more perceptive than we sometimes are.
Yeah.
Because the holiday season kind of makes you, it's about me and all the tasks that I have to do. So we would have to be, and this would be whether you're thinking about someone with a mental diagnosis or not, just people in general, as you're saying. So it requires us to be a little more perceptive and to be a little more other-centered.
Yes, that is right.
And operate the same way we would, whether they have a diagnosis or not. Got you. Okay, got you. All right. Lisa, you're, let's see. For many years, the church, I'm going to go right to the last question here because we're almost out of time, but for many years, the church, and for that matter, even society, has allowed a stigma to be placed, and you mentioned that earlier, on mental illness, thus limiting the kinds of conversations which could potentially lead to diagnosis and treatment. Do you feel society is doing a better job with now organizations like NAMI and different things that are out there? You feel like society is doing a better job of removing the stigma, addressing the issue?
So I think society in general has gotten better. They do have the new mental health directives. A lot of the police forces, the fire emergency crews have now been trained on mental health and the challenges that some go through. We have 4 major mental health diagnoses: schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, major depression, and bipolar disorder. Those are the 4 major ones. They're major because they're persistent. They're persistent, they'll never go, something that never goes away. Once you have them, you will have it and carry that for the rest of your life. There's other ones like PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of them, diagnoses out there. And so wait, what was your question? I got
I feel
all
like society is doing a better job at removing the stigma.
So we at NAMI have education programs. We have a peer-to-peer education program. I am one of the facilitators along with my friend Harriet, and we do a program where we help other peers learn about themselves and what they can do to help. We also have a family-to-family program that any individual who has a friend or a family member who has an illness can come to that education program and can learn specific things that they can do so that they can help. I think society has gotten better at this, but I think it's more individual. It needs to go more to the home. It needs to be something that's practiced in individual households and communities in order to really help us to get to a better place with mental health. Because it is no different than diabetics. Diabetes, mental illness. It doesn't matter which you have, it's still, there's things that you need to do to keep yourself well. And the stigma just creates worse of a problem. The more you stigmatize a group of people, the more they're not going to reach out for the help that they need.
Now, when you say it needs to go into the home, tell me a little bit more about that. You mean that family members need to be educated, or tell me what you mean about that?
I guess to me, it's a lot like, in my travels, my journeys over the years, I've been to many different churches. My Uncle Chuck was a preacher. My dad went to the Presbyterian church, my mom the Orthodox church. I've had many friends. One of my best friends when I was in nursing school was Charity, and she was a Church of Latter-day Saints, a Mormon. So I have been to many churches. And one piece of information that I would say is so important is to spend time with your family talking about spiritual things, talking about things that are important. I'm not saying, is it going to rain today? I'm saying, how are you doing? How are you dealing with being in 8th grade? Do you have friends at school? And I know that's funny because you're like, what do you mean? Ask them if they have friends at school. But the truth is, school is hard. It was hard when I was in school. I had very few friends. I had a lot of acquaintances, but I really didn't have anybody that I could say I really talked to. And that's where we need to get to that point, because if we talk to them, to each other as a family, as time goes on, it strengthens you. So when major things do happen, like, for example, if you present with a mental illness, it will be an easier struggle than to have to start with zero. Well, how did this happen? No, it didn't just happen. It took years to get to the point where this happened.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm going to paraphrase this so it makes sense to me. You're talking about really building relationships within the family.
Yes.
So that when something really awful happens, you're not saying, wait, how come I didn't know? But if we've been building relationships all along, and that certainly is true for the church as well, if we've been building relationships with each other all along, then it isn't wham out of the blue.
Right.
And we can actually be in a more effective support system for that individual because we've been with them on the journey all along.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying. Okay, I wanted to make sure, because I want to put some of this stuff into practice, so I have to say it back to you so I hear it right. Let me ask you, I'm going to ask you one last question.
Okay.
Your website estimates that over 40,000 American lives are lost to suicide every year, and that it's the second leading cause of death among young people ages 15 to 24. Do you have any sense of why that is?
Yeah.
Do you have any sense?
This is, in my opinion, just from what I've seen and what I've witnessed, somebody could fail a test in school, and that could be enough to push them over the edge. Somebody could break up with their girlfriend, or the girlfriend could break up with them. That could be enough to put somebody over the edge. Now, in these cases, if it was possible to have a stronger relationship within your community and your home, it would make a difference. You know, it's got to be okay for somebody not to get straight A's, because you can't pass every test. How are you going to learn and grow? You can't grow. You grow from failing and getting up and trying again. You don't grow from, succeeding through everything all the way, and then the first time you fail, it's like the world's falling apart. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Back to the relationship piece. I feel like it went back to that in your answer there. It's back to being relational with people and building relationships and support systems.
Right.
Wow.
So we have, Mary Ellen Copeland has a RAP plan, Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And it's a plan that you make when you're well. You can't do it when you're sick. You need to make it when you're well. Because once you're sick, it's too late to follow the plan. I would encourage anybody to look this up online. They have it specific for veterans, for juveniles, for adults, they have all kinds of different books that you can get a hold of. But I encourage you to do that. And if you come to NAMI, to one of our groups, there are many of us who have done them, and we can help you go through one. You do it whether or not you have an illness or a challenge. You do it just because it's going to help you. Whether you're sick or not sick, it's going to help you, because you can tell somebody else, and then they can tell somebody, and then before we know it, everybody has ways to catch each other before things get bad.
And that sounds like something that could be used whether or not you have a mental health diagnosis or not.
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Okay. Lots of good stuff shared here today. Thank you, Lisa, for being with us today. This was just so tremendous. I feel like, I've been in this church really all of my life, and I feel like we rarely, if ever, talk about mental illness. And so I think there certainly is room to grow for society, but certainly for the church, to explore this, to begin to talk about it, to unpack some things. And you certainly have helped us do that today. So thank you so much for being here with us. I do want to let our audience know that Mount Olive is a site for one of the NAMI support groups in Washington County. Lisa is the leader of that, along with another gentleman, and they meet on the second Wednesday of every month, and we start at 5 o'clock, and it's till 6:30 p.m. It's right here in the basement of this church. At the conclusion of this presentation, we will certainly put a phone number at the bottom as to where you can call to ask more information about NAMI in general, and also where you can call to become a part of the support groups that are available throughout Washington County. Again, the one, if you're here in Canonsburg, the one that is here is on the second Wednesday of every month. So the December one has already happened, so it would be in January, second Wednesday of January, starting at 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. right here at Mount Olive Baptist Church. At this point, I'm going to again say thank you, Lisa, for being with us, and we're going to sign off. God bless you, everyone that is watching what has gone on today. I hope that you were taking notes. I certainly was well educated on the topic, and I'm going to need to get a whole lot more, so I'll be calling on Lisa. But thank you for being with us today. May you have a blessed Merry Christmas.